All right. Well, hello, High Wire Women. We have a very special guest today. My esteemed friend and colleague, Lisa Coppola, is joining us from the Coppola firm. Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, Rosanna. So delighted to be with you. I am an entrepreneur. Sometimes I call myself a serial entrepreneur. I have founded a law firm and owned two others prior to that. And I also have the great joy of owning a garden design and construction firm. So I often say my law practice feeds my family and my garden design firm feeds
Mhm.
my soul.
Awesome. Well, Lisa and I go way, way back. We were lawyers at a very large firm many years ago. We both went our separate ways and did our separate things. And just when I think I'm crazy, I always look to my friend Lisa and she's doing one other thing. So I think we feed off of each other, right?
Out of doubt, the energy is palpable.
So really interesting times for labor and employment folks. I've watched your firm in the last 2 or 3 months just implode in a beautiful way, in a way that is educational and informing both employers and employees of what the heck do we do? We've all been cut off at our knees in terms of, okay, what do we do? Like, what are we responsible for? How do we remote access? When is the office going to reopen? Tell us like some high level stuff that you guys have really been managing. Like, what are people asking for? Like, what's been
Sure.
your most, the most meaningful service on your end?
Right. When New York was put on pause a couple of months ago now, we put our heads together at the firm, and our core group of labor and employment attorneys, my partner Jen Scharf and our colleague Erin Ewell and I decided either this could be a step back or this could be a step forward. And we decided to make it a step forward, each of us from our home offices, right, or dining room tables, as the case may be. Decided our goal here during the pandemic was to be of service. And so we immediately started on a campaign using social to get the word out, to try to digest and analyze and make accessible all of these new laws and regulations and policies and guidance we're told that we really have to follow, right, as employers or as employees. And so we focused on making things bite-sized, on trying to one of the things I bridle at is lawyers and our, lofty language, which in my opinion just has no place in society. So, you, as am I, are a straight talker, and that's what we try to do. So what we've heard again and again from our clients, from those who've had to cease operations, right? Don't have the kind of business where their people could work remotely, to those who were struggling, challenged in a positive way to reinvent themselves to work remotely. How do we do all that? How do we keep our employees loyal to us? A great portion of the work we do is for employers, although we sometimes represent employees as well. So it's two sides of the same coin, right? We all want to be productive and have the security of a position at a company or a firm or an organization. And then those firms, companies, and organizations want to flourish as best they can. So we're trying to, I would say, digest what is very complex in both federal and state law and feed it to clients and friends and colleagues in a way that makes it understandable to them.
And it's just coming out so fast and furiously. It's so hard to keep up with. And I'm so grateful to have your guidance, because I know it's someplace that I can go look, I can read it in 10 minutes and I can figure it out.
Right.
Because of course I'm a lawyer and I have the training to look at all of the details, but I don't want that. I have a business to run.
That's right. Yep, exactly. And whether, you're a lawyer whose focus is immigration as yours is, or you're running a manufacturing plant or a retail operation, you don't have time to fully digest all of this. So that's, for a while we were focusing on getting up at midnight, because it seemed the federal government always hit its guidance around midnight, 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Eastern. and trying to pull that all together. So thank you for saying that. It warms, my heart to know that we're being heard and we're of some help to folks.
And in terms of your webinars, I imagine they're overwhelmingly successful, right? You must have lots of listeners and followers that are waiting for the next one.
We do. We've really focused in the beginning on how to address pandemic, and we've now transitioned to looking at, we're coming out of this. It may still be a while.
Mm-hmm.
It may be incremental. We all know
Right.
Patience is necessary right now. But our focus now has turned to a number of different industries. We just spoke with a number of medical practices in a webinar sponsored by the Medical Society to help them. They've been essential, right, all this time,
Sure.
physicians.
Yes.
But they still have to look at the new guidance that's coming out. And sometimes that can be frustrating because if you've been practicing all this time, now you want to put more layers of sort of obligations on us. But for the public safety, it makes sense to understand it and really be able to move forward in a productive way.
And I think it's so interesting. The flip side to the medical practice is that we hear about the frontline workers and those, handling the ICU and respiratory therapists, but there's not a lot being talked about how the rest of the medical industry is being decimated right now. I mean, hospitals, significant layoffs, primary care practices that have been around for decades are folding. There's the flip side to all of this. And I think it's really scary. I can't imagine to be a medical provider in a non-hospital setting right now when your business has just been decimated for months and months and months.
That's right. There's so much fear in the communities, right? Mm-hmm. So, while we understand in the height of the COVID situation where folks might want to cancel their, regularly scheduled annual evaluation, it's now time to start with those protections in place for sure. At either telemedicine, which has worked out very well for a number of specialists, not so much if you want to listen to somebody's heartbeat, right? I know. And then the office setting. So we're counseling those clients to really elevate their presence in the community so that their patients know they're there, they're ready to serve, and they can come in.
So what's your advice to employers? And again, not legal advice, just advice. So Highwire Woman is really targeted towards working women that are really being stretched right now, not only working from home, adjusting to new job responsibilities, also teaching their kids, trying to put dinner on the table, be positive, read, reorganize our closets, all those things that we're called to do. As employers, so we've got women-owned businesses, and we're not limiting this to the state of New York, but as an employer, like what's your one thing? Like what's your one thing that an employer should be aware of right now?
Yeah, the absolute one thing every employer must be aware of is to have updated written policies that address the confusion that's going on, in our society. Is that easy to do? Not always. Is it smart to do? Absolutely, every single time. There's got to be clarity for your people, and the only way to do that is to have policies in writing. Do they need to be 20 pages long? No, of course not.
Right.
They need to talk the way you and I, Rosanna, are talking right now, but be there so that their team knows what's expected of them.
Yeah, I keep telling a lot of business owners, like, hope is not a strategy. You can't hope this will all work out. You've got to have something in writing, something tangible that you can point to. And that's just good practice day to day, notwithstanding pandemic. But right now, I think it's so critical to have something written, not only to protect the businesses, but also just as a game plan for moving forward. And
that's right.
In terms of employees, so it's super interesting. I think we've seen the legal industry turn upside down on its head, where a lot of law firms are saying, hey, you don't necessarily need to come back to the physical space. A lot of what you and I do day to day is all done through our laptops. But But there are some employees that are anxious to come back. They miss the socialization, but they're afraid. I mean, what do you tell that person that says, I really do want to go back to my office when I'm allowed to, but I'm scared? What can we tell those types of employees?
Right. So for employees, what we tell them is ask questions. Ask questions of your employer. You do it politely, of course, but you do it forthrightly. You deserve as an employee to know what that plan is, right, Rosanna? You just said that.
Yes.
Hope is not a strategy. There must be a plan. And the employee has the right to know what that is, to know what the expectations of them are, and to know how their employer is going to work to keep that workplace safe for everyone. So, number one response or advice to employees always is ask the questions you think you need to have answered.
This isn't a time to be shy. This isn't a time to be timid. You need to know what's going on and really make a judgment call. Are you comfortable going into your office, or are you fine remoting? And we've been gearing up for the reopening in New York State, and we're not sure when it's going to happen, but I have talked to each of my employees individually and have given them the option. Like, if you want to come back, great. Here's our plan. Here's what we're going to do. If you don't want to come back, that's great too. As long as we can keep working remotely. And I think it's really important for people to feel comfortable, because there's just so much anxiety not knowing how this is all really going to play out in the long term. It feels like forever, but it's really been a short time that this is happening.
That's right. But it's been so dramatic of a change that in many ways it feels like, holy cow, this has been going on for a lifetime or two, right? And so that's a wonderful thing. I think in many professional services firms and companies like yours and mine, we can be flexible like that, which makes just such great sense. It engenders a sense of, loyalty and confidence in our teams, that they know we, as the owners of the business, have their back. And there's, I think, nothing better coming from the perspective of having been an employee in my younger years, right?
For sure.
Know that my boss, the owners, had my back, meant everything to me.
For sure. So tell everybody on Highwire Women what kind of services you offer. How can people reach you? What do they do if they have questions? Let us know what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for that opportunity. So the Coppola firm is a full-service law firm. And so, yes, we work a lot in the labor and employment space. We also do an awful lot of work with businesses that are either starting out or they're buying other businesses. And lastly, we do a lot of litigation. So sometimes I say, there are days when I fight for a living, and we represent companies, but we also represent individuals who've been injured, and we help them to get justice. And we work across New York State. Our lawyers are licensed in New York and a couple of other states, but New York is our focus. And you find us on the web at coppola-firm.com. And at our website, you see all of our social channels. We're quite active on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and your audience is welcome to call with questions if they ever have any questions.
Fantastic. So I know you're a serial entrepreneur, you're really busy, but we all have some downtime. Tell me something you've been doing that's a little bit different during this pandemic time.
Well, I will say, I'll say this, and it's really very related to my second business, and that is I have made a conscious effort and decision to be out in my garden, my own garden in the backyard, just about every morning I can. There's a reason I'm not showing you my hands, because they're my fingernails. Truly, there is. Most nights I try to be out there as well. And, we're so lucky in Western New York when it gets to be this time of year, May and pushing to June. There is nothing more magical than being in a beautiful outdoor space. So that's where I get my zen. And I've really made it a commitment to be out there and digging down in the earth.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense to me and makes me feel so much better.
For sure. And seeing things just blossom in front of your eyes, it's so magical. My one thing during this pandemic, and I did it sort of not really thinking about it, I bought a birdhouse. a bird feeder, actually. I'm sorry, there's a
Yeah.
difference.
Uh-huh.
And just the amount of fun we've had in my household watching the birds. My
I
hu-
bet.
my son keeps telling me I'm one of those weird bird ladies, but I'm like, look, there's a cardinal. Look, there's a bluebird. Like, it's amazing, and
Get your binoculars out.
they've been right under my eyes this whole time. Um,
Yeah.
it's been so magical. So I'm really happy for the opportunity, and I think I might be turning into one of those bird people.
That's a beautiful thing. You know, if there are silver linings, and I know there are, it's been that each of us, in one way or another, has been forced to slow down, even if it's
Mhm.
just for that 15 minutes a day. I'm digging in the dirt, or you're watching the
Right,
Cardinals and the Blue
right.
Jays coming in. And there is something just so, I don't know, soul filling, if I can
Mhm.
say it that way, about taking those moments and realizing the gratitude to have those moments.
For
It's
sure.
important, you know, even though we're up on that high wire
I
doing
know.
that balancing act. If we can take those few moments and kind of fill ourselves up, I think it goes a long way to sustaining us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. I highly, highly recommend contacting Lisa with any of your employee needs. Her firm is passionate, they're responsive, they're a wealth of knowledge in this very confusing time. So thanks, Lisa, for keeping on during this crazy time.
Delighted to be with you. Thank you.
You're welcome.